Today let's look at a YouTuber named Cynthia G. She, in a lot of her videos, has a lot of assertions that is barely ever, if ever, backed up with any reason, logic, or support. But this time it has. And on this occasion, I would like to go over these with you and see how she can say the things she says and think the way she thinks with the evidence brought before her. So let's start off with her most recent video talking about blonde hair.
Contrary to your belief in your feeble mind, black people existed on this planet before white people even existed. So therefore, black people were wearing blonde hair and green and blue eyes before you even existed. Blonde hair and blue and green eyes didn't become a concept only when white people started and existed. You can sit here and talk about, what is he talking about, these white people and Swedish? Before Sweden people existed, the Aborigines were wearing blonde hair. So even if it didn't come from Europeans, it surely didn't, even if it's not something from black people, it didn't come from you. We know it's not Europeans because it existed before Europeans existed. So it's like, well, what an idiot.
So these things existed, blonde hair and blue eye existed before Europeans? Okay. Citation needed. It might be true, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Citation needed. I don't know where she even came up with that. That's weird.
That's the thing. This is when I say that they're fragile ego of the white supremacists. Like, really? It's so annoying just to get a comment like this, because they'll ask you all day and every day, oh, post some comments, do some citations. But then the minute that you do it, then they want to dismiss it. Now you want to dismiss it when I'm giving you the evidence that is put there by other white people. I'm giving you the evidence, and then you want to dismiss it simply because you want to have a monopoly on blonde hair and blue eyes that doesn't even belong to you, that you can't even grow from your hair. Mind you,
it has nothing to do with people wanting to have a monopoly on blonde hair or blue eyes. It has to do with, are you full of crap or are you right? And here we go. Let's get into your evidence.
So I actually did some research because I know white people have this thing on if black people, and black people do too, have this thing where if black people are wearing weave, or depending on the color of their weave, they seem to think that this is consistent with white people. As you saw in the last few comments, there's a lot of white people seeming to think that straight and long hair or blonde hair or whatever is consistent with white people now.
That's right. She said straight hair and blonde hair is consistent with white people. Yes, straight hair and blonde hair is consistent with white people. Well, a lot of them anyways. As we will see, she does not agree with this, and she is going to make her point here real quick.
My thing is white people haven't gotten anything. They haven't originated anything, not even their own beauty standard, which is blonde hair.
This is the problem with any type of supremacists, especially black supremacists. They think they invented everything, originated everything, and did everything. They will not credit anything to anybody, no matter how hard or how well they did a job. And this is just one of the examples, one of the more insane examples of a black supremacist going off on whites did not originate blonde hair. This is pretty insane.
So I actually, and weave, and I'm going to show you something on weave too, because they tend to associate these things despite reality, because this is how you can tell somebody's intellectual level. A person who is truly intellectual, even beyond what they learned, they're going to do a number of research to kind of confirm what they've learned. A lot of these white trolls go solely based on stereotypes or what someone else have told them, because you can actually do research And as you see that I'm doing, and this is from an international weekly journal of science. So I did some research because I wanted to really see why it is, I wanted to see if are these white trolls just brainwashed and stupid and going by what someone else told them, or did they actually do the research? And so I will actually do research to find my things. Now, number one, here's the thing. White people's beauty standard tend to associate blonde hair, long hair with white people. Blonde hair doesn't even come from white people.
Okay, here she says that white trolls do no research. And I would like to also add that if you're going to do research, you need to actually comprehend what you are researching and understand what you are reading, as we will see earlier. But here's another assertion she asserts, and she will assert for the rest of her videos that she will probably do for the rest of her life, is that blonde hair does not originate and does not come from white people. And we will look at this.
It doesn't even come from Europe at all. And science actually shows that blonde hair does not originate in Europe. In addition to that, very few white people actually have natural blonde hair. So it's funny how you have all of these white people running around aspiring to be blonde hair when it doesn't even come from them, thinking that they have a monopoly on it. But this is just another example of how they will appropriate things that's not even there. Now let's go over this article really quickly. So the title of this article is "Blonde Hair Evolved More Than Once."
If something evolves more than once, that means it has more than one origin. It originates more than once.
Golden locks of dark-skinned Melanesians have different genetic bases to those of Europeans. This is actually, if you scroll down, this is actually the origins of blonde hair. Now, notice this isn't a European child.
Where does it say this is the origins of blonde hair? Where does it say that?
It says, does evolution have a soft spot for blondes? About 5 to 10% of people from Melanesia, a group of islanders, so basically the Australian Aborigines, have naturally blonde hair. The highest prevalence outside of Europe.
The highest prevalence outside of Europe. Okay, does that mean, A, the highest prevalence outside of Europe means there is more than in Europe? Or does it mean there is more in Europe than here, or they are both equal? The answer coming up soon.
Okay, now the highest prevalence, mind you, of blonde hair comes outside of Europe. They come from the Aborigines. Notice they're showing a little black child, not a little white child. Yet people from the region have the darkest skin pigmentation outside of Africa. So now they're telling you Australia, which is right now being considered a European country, the highest prevalence of blonde hair comes from these people with the dark pigmentation that is darker than Africans.
Okay, here we see an obvious comprehension problem with the word outside of. Outside of means apart from or aside from. So, aside from Europe, this is the highest prevalence of blondes. Apart from Africa, this is the darkest people there are. That means Africans are darker and that there are more in Europe. The comprehension here is absolutely astounding.
Okay, these are the darkest skin pigmentations outside of Africa. Okay, so that tells you a lot. Now, a study of people from the Solomon Islands in Melanesia shows that they evolved the striking blonde trait independently of people in Europe. Okay.
That's right. She just read that they evolved independently of each other, that Europeans did not influence them and they did not influence Europeans. So the origins were separate. They had two separate origins.
Okay, so now, mind you, These people on the comments want to sit here and tell somebody they're not looking like themselves. How many of those bottle of peroxide blondes do you see that's running around thinking Europeans own it? Mind you, they're getting it from black people. This refutes the possibility that blonde hair was introduced by colonial Europeans, says Carlos Bustamante, a geneticist at Stanford University School of Medicine in Stanford, California.
At this point, I think she's absolutely just trolling with us. I think she's just jerking people's chain. Like, we don't understand what the article is saying.
Now, argue with the Stanford University person, okay? Argue with the geneticist that I'm sure is white, that is telling you blonde hair does not originate in Europe, okay? And a senior co-author of the study, which is published today in Science, blonde hair has clearly evolved twice.
She just read blonde hair clearly evolved twice and comes up with the same conclusion that blonde hair originated from blacks. This is absolutely insane.
The next time you see a white blonde hair person on there, you need to ask him, why are they trying to be black? That's what you need to ask him. Why are you wearing blonde hair? Blonde hair did not come from Europeans. Why are you wearing blonde hair that came from who? They came from the Australian Aborigines who have the darkest pigmentation outside of Africa, okay? This isn't a white child that you see with the natural blonde hair. This is a black child right here. So the question is, why do you have all these white women out here tanning their skin, getting blonde hair so they can look like black people? That's what you need to ask. What you need to ask is, then why do they hate themselves so much that they want to jump into a tanning booth to darken their skin?
Okay, so this is what I got, was that there's more than one origin of blonde hair, that it originated more than once. Whites are known for their blonde hair because it is more prevalent, and you can check out the statistics on that. On this paper, it says that in this tribe it was about 5 to 10% that had blonde hair, while in Europe it can be, I don't know the exact number, but it's about 25%. You may correct me on that, but it's more prevalent in Europe. The other assertion she makes is that the blacks had blonde hair before whites. We don't know this. This is unknown. I was looking around, just a real rough estimate. It said 10,000 years ago for blondes in Europe, and about 5 to 30,000 years ago in the paper, in this particular paper, it says that it originated. But if anybody want to correct me on that, that's fine. I don't think there's any sweat loss off of this. It's just some of this logic here is just absolutely how she gets there. So this next clip, just so you know, Cynthia, if you ever watch this, BC, if you're going BC, it goes from a higher number to a lower number.
Were born in Egypt between 1353 and 1330. I think they need to reverse that. 1350